What is going on, everybody? This is Brandon.
This is Bryce.
And this is Brian.
Welcome, everybody, back to ComixKings, or welcome if this is your first time. And I want to take a second to welcome everybody to a brand new show here on ComixKings, which we like to call Archives, where we take a trade paperback, hardcover, any collected edition, a story, essential story, and dive into it, break it down for you guys, recap, review it, and just discuss everything about that book. Today, if you guys have not noticed by our background or our thumbnail, we are talking about Daredevil, To Heaven Through Hell by Zdarsky, Checchetto, and Lalit, Kumar, Sharma. Fantastic book. Thank you guys both for joining me tonight. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. If you can tell by the t-shirt and the sunglasses, I really just felt like channeling my inner Matt Murdock tonight.
I thought you were Mike Murdock.
And Mike Murdock, pretty much, yeah. Super excited to talk about this book, man. Love this run.
What's going on, Brian? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Also, like Bryce, very excited to talk about this run because it's a phenomenal book, one of the best Marvel has going right now. So excited to dive into it with you guys.
Right. And this book, like you said, has carried a lot of momentum these past few years, carrying off where Charles Soule left him kind of in a dark place where he was almost flatlined. Eventually kind of he wasn't dead. It was just he was teased. He was flatlined, but he had a little heartbeat at the end. And then Jed MacKay did a little mini series before everyone knew who Jed MacKay was. I don't recommend checking that out because you really don't need to. Just Daredevil almost died. Kingpin is the mayor of New York because Daredevil's little interim period was over, and we're dealing with Daredevil recovering from his injuries and where we're going forward in Hell's Kitchen with Kingpin continuing his tenure as mayor of Hell's Kitchen. I will say the art in here is phenomenal at times. The back half was a little bit let down, but Marco Checchetto.
I definitely liked Fornes on the last issue, I will say. Fornes was great, in my opinion.
Yes, I would agree. I think it definitely gives you those David Aja Hawkeye vibes, just because of how soft it is. But I'm not the biggest Jorge Fornes fan out there. I know a lot of people are. It's just that's not my style, personally speaking. But let's dive into the book. So we start off with Daredevil kind of walking into a bar, and at which point he goes pick up this lady who doesn't realize that he's blind at first. So like he's kind of explaining it, and we slowly learn how Daredevil picks up women by how he uses like his sense of his hearing. His hearing is able to pick up women like the heartbeat or like how warm their body temperature is. You know, because that's not creepy at all. Walk into a bar, that's your best pickup line. It's okay. I know if they're interested in me or not.
It's not like he has a choice in the matter. So, I mean, he can't really, help it.
Right. But Daredevil kind of knew that this girl was trouble because he was taking pills and she wanted some. But we flash back to a point where Daredevil where he wasn't blind, where he came into church with his father. And I thought that this was such a powerful moment because while his dad was like kind of confessing, this is kind of where we kind of learn how witty Matt Murdock is, which I thought there were a lot of powerful lines in here, which Zdarsky is very good at packing some powerful punches in such short of a span. I don't know. Brian, what did you think, man?
Yeah, I agree with you on that point about Zdarsky. As I was reading this, and you really see this in particular in the first issue, because right after that scene where he's picking up the woman in the bar with classic Matt Murdock making terrible personal life decisions. But right after that, you have that scene where he flashes back to his childhood and he's talking with the priest. And I think what Zdarsky really is great at is presenting a character's perspective and philosophy through dialogue and conversation in very short bursts, very quick ways. So you really get a good idea of this is this character's worldview and this is what this character believes. And you can instantly grab onto, okay, now this is the theme that's going to be playing out throughout the next however many issues of Daredevil.
Right. Because we learn at a young age that, he broke into this kid's house to get something to return it. But the actual breaking in part was the sin. But the deed that he was doing good, just that kind of inner conflict, definitely sets the tone for this story. And I thought that was a very powerful thing, even like as a young kid, because we all know that stealing is wrong. It does the good outweigh the bad. And that's been like kind of inner turmoil that we're going to see in this run. Right. And we have a little bit of outer turmoil because the next scene we see Daredevil kind of getting out of the bed with this girl, and she was like, I picked you up with my charm because you're not looking at me for my looks. We all know Daredevil knows that she's gorgeous because for some reason Daredevil is the ladies' man of the Marvel Universe and is always picking up the most attractive women. Bryce is nodding his head. He's like, yeah, me too.
Eldon Hansen said it best in the Netflix series. If there is a beautiful woman with questionable character, Matt Murdock's going to find her and Foggy Nelson's going to suffer.
That's like 50 years of Daredevil comics. You just summed up.
Just summed into one line.
Oh my gosh. But from her perspective, I thought that it was really cool because Daredevil, I feel like, has a lot of doesn't have empathy for himself, but I feel like a lot of people look at him and automatically give him empathy where he feels like it's undeserved. Much like when he woke up with this girl and she was like, I won you over my charm, you know, not even though like you couldn't see me, like she was trying something new, but Daredevil kind of took it as someone who's being empathetic. And then we learn about a new character on the block named Detective Cole North. Bryce, you want to talk about Cole North for a little bit?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love Cole North. I've pretty much, now that I've read the entire run, because I hadn't read these 10 issues up to like before, I love Cole North. I think he is one of the best new characters in the Daredevil mythos.
Oh yeah, he can survive Gotham.
He could survive Gotham. Oh my gosh! I honestly, I could see Cole North having been, if he were in the DC universe, he would be like Jim Gordon's protege. I
feel like he'd be more of like a amped up Harvey Bullock without the cigar, without the smoking addiction.
Yeah,
he feels very much like. Sorry, go ahead, Bryce.
No, you good, man. Go ahead.
No, he feels very much like a character that could have stepped out of the old Ed Brubaker Gotham Central book, right? Like he feels. I don't know if you guys have read Gotham Central.
Yes.
An incredible comic book that's basically like the focus on just the cops in Gotham City, and he feels very much like a character who could have stepped out of that book, where he has this sort of moral code that is rooted in a world where, yes, there is regular crime, but there is also vigilantism. And how does a person who is an officer of the law deal with the fact that you basically have these people who are showing you up your job on a regular basis, and also you have criminals who you as a normal person are not equipped to deal with? Like, even the regular person is going to have a hard time with, like, Stiltman. As ridiculous as he is, a regular cop is going to have a hard time with Stiltman.
So just wait till the MCU gets their hands on Stiltman.
Dark, gritty Stilt. Man, that's what the world's waiting for. Exactly. But yeah, I think that there's an interesting, again, another perspective and worldview that's brought in by him, where he sees that there's crooked cops, but he also doesn't like that Daredevil exists, and he has to kind of navigate that middle ground.
Yeah, he's very much a by the book kind of detective. He doesn't think that there should be, while they're doing good, he doesn't think that there should be vigilantes operating outside the law.
Right.
And especially not Daredevil after what happens at the end of the first issue.
Right. We get introduced to Cole North when these two cops are dealing with a kind of a beatdown. Yeah, that's the right word, right?
Yeah.
Beatdown. He's dealing with a beatdown, and these two cops are like, oh, Daredevil did it. We're just going to write it off because Daredevil helps us out. We're good. Boom, let's just throw these guys in. Daredevil did it, not pressing charges. Cole North comes in, he's like, yeah, no. He assaulted these guys. Because he's from Chicago, he transferred over. He doesn't have that kind of personal relationship that Daredevil has with the cops in the city who are risking their lives. So, like, for those of you who have never read a Daredevil comic, Hell's Kitchen, where Daredevil resides in, is a very dark alley, high crime area. So think of it as we compare it a lot to Gotham City. It's not as rich in violence as Gotham City is. However, the crime is still very potent. That's the right word. It's still very much there.
Yeah.
So when Cole North comes in, he's like, this is a great opportunity for me to make my name, grow more as a cop, as a detective. And he doesn't like Daredevil just as much as he doesn't like Kingpin. So another kind of sub-conflict in here is, how will Cole North deal with his hatred for both and is eager to put people behind bars? There is a kind of a real-world plot here with the police, or are they locking people up for their numbers, for their quota, or are they doing it because they genuinely believe? Well, I'm sure they believe that crime is bad. We all can say crime is bad, but are they? But it's like it's subjective. And to Colin North, that crime is going to anyone, no matter how much the good outweighs the bad. So that's his conflict with Daredevil, is he feels like the rule of law should be adamant for all people, not just Daredevil. Daredevil's not an exception. So he's like, yeah, no, I'm above you two cops. You answer to me. We're going after the son of a bitch. He's like, he beat these guys up because he liked it, because he wanted to, which furthers the plot that we were talking about earlier with Chip Zdarsky, talking about, does the good outweigh the bad? Because does Daredevil fight crime because he likes it? Is this like an avenue for him to escape in? Or is he doing it out of the goodness of his heart? Which we learn this in a little bit. Now we flash back to a scene where Daredevil is now blinded, and we're talking about his relationship to God. Now, I'm Jewish, so the scenes in here were very powerful to me. However, I can't really relate to them on a religious aspect, but the message is still very powerful. Matthew shuts God out of his life, essentially, and he's like, God is punishing me for saving someone's life. God took this away, but the Father in the church, he is trying to get Daredevil to realize that God is just giving him another gift, another avenue for him to go down, which I thought was great, because we all live with like some form of disability. None of us are perfect as much as we think we are. Me especially, Bryce especially. Bryce is nowhere near perfect. I'm nowhere near perfect. Brian is just above both of us.
I'm pretty better, don't worry.
We're all terrible people. It's fine.
Oh, shit.
Well, it was interesting. Well, Brandon, it was interesting hearing your take on it from the religious perspective, because as someone who was, and Bryce, I don't know what your faith background is, but Daredevil has always resonated with me in a weird way because I was raised Catholic. So I feel a lot of that Catholic guilt that always lingers with Matt Murdock. And I think the scene that you're describing where he's like, God is punishing me, that is unfortunately like kind of a weird side effect of the way Catholicism operates, where because you are expected to bring your sins, recognize your sins, and then ask for forgiveness from a priest, there is always going to be this aspect of you carry guilt with you, and you sometimes feel like, oh, I've done a sin, I've committed a sin, therefore I have to be punished for that. Like the relationship between doing good in your life here so that way you get the afterlife that is either heaven or hell, that all kind of blends together. And I think that the idea of this arc, as you were saying, Brandon, of, do the ends justify the means? How much bad can you do to reach a good thing? Fits in so neatly with this idea of, well, if you're a Catholic, you're never supposed to do anything bad, right? The idea is like you always do the right thing. But Matt's like, I have these abilities and it requires me to do things that are morally wrong, but it gives me a good end point. And it's interesting what you were saying before about Detective North, because he's the opposite. He's basically that more godlike figure that's like, no, you never do anything wrong. I don't care if you're Daredevil. I don't care if you're Kingpin. The law is the law. While Matt Murdock is the morally gray aspect of that.
Yeah, this is why the character of Daredevil has resonated with me since I discovered him. Because, like you said, you were raised Catholic. I hold more of a Protestant faith.
Okay.
And so I definitely get a good bit of that guilt. And I've definitely been, I've been bitter towards God before, thinking that he is punishing me and thinking that, I may have done, he's trying to do something to me because he feels like it, when at the same time, it's like he says later in the book, which we'll get, he feels like questioning God at times is what we're kind of here for.
Well, I also feel like a quote that you were taught that you just reminded me of, when Daredevil would eventually kind of talk about his blindness, saying like, okay, he was taken away from God's vision and pointed down a different path. Maybe like that's what God is doing to him. Like, so religious figures act in multiple ways. They can be there for us in our best times or worst times. Whatever avenue people use religion to self-suffice. People use religion to believe in something. And in the darkest times, at least there's like a comfort that you're going to have somebody there at all times. Of all the major religions, that's kind of like the growing gist for all of us to kind of come together and say we're one people. Whether you,
and that's if I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's
no, go for it.
I'm kind of reminded too, especially growing up, and I have found myself to believe this a decent bit. I was always taught that when God closes one door, another one opens. And you can definitely see a good bit of that in the Daredevil character.
Yes, I always loved Daredevil because I wanted to be a lawyer for the longest time. I had an internship at a law firm. I was also teaching karate, so it was like, oh, lawyer by day, martial arts by night. So, and I'm colorblind, so I thought I was like 90% there.
That's so funny. You had a girlfriend who was an assassin. It all kind of came together.
Oh my god, she was like an assassin except she was a devil. Oh my god, that girl was so no. We don't talk about her. But anyway, let's go back to the story. Daredevil, he gets out of bed, realizes, oh yeah, I closed my eyes and reminded of everything. Let's go kick some ass. So the other thing is Daredevil's recovering from an injury, which I can heavily relate to, especially within the last few years, being a martial artist who's gone through 4 hip surgeries in 3 years. Exactly a month after.
Are you actually fighting ninjas? That's so many.
No, I was. I know. See, I was really fighting the students I used to teach, but I'm kidding. Sometimes they're parents. No, I'm kidding.
Lord.
No, I'm kidding.
How many surgeries? Change your name in my phone to Carson Wentz.
Jeez. Yo, but he's back in practice now, and the Colts will still suck, but I digress. Go Steelers, everyone. But Daredevil is dealing with a robbery that he's like anticipating because he can hear it a mile away. These people are trying to grab some bottles of liquor to go celebrate, stupid, and they're also looking to go get some money. Daredevil comes through, and his injuries, because Daredevil feels a lot physically and emotionally, that sometimes like those feelings can overload to where you're feeling more of something and less of something else. So it's like a cause and effect. Like you open a door, right? Whenever you open a door, right, there's as much closed and then there's more open, right? Vice versa. You guys know what I'm trying to say. So with Daredevil's pain level, it's kind of the same way, right? It's like sometimes like when he's given the beating, he can't feel the pullback. So he doesn't know how hard he's striking. So that'll kind of cause him eventually to kind of cross that line that we're going to deal with going forward. So Daredevil beats he's getting his butt kicked, which if you've ever read a Daredevil comic, you know Daredevil's much smarter, much faster, much more skilled than this. So it's very unlike Daredevil to let three criminals get to him like that. But they did.
Especially 3 like amateur criminals like these guys are.
They were sloppy.
Yeah, they're like robbing a liquor store. They're scrubs. They're like nobody.
Yeah, they're basically like fresh out of college kids.
They're the Riddler's little henchmen. I'm sorry. They work for the Riddler, essentially. And so Daredevil doesn't realize how hard he punches this guy down before he's getting beat up by the next. And then there's an explosion, and the cops come. Daredevil escapes, but his wounds are starting to open up, so we don't really know the damage that he's doing until the next issue. We know what he's doing to himself because he's not feeling like himself, but he's definitely he's injured. So he's not going to be himself. We can tell that he's recovering, and you didn't need to read the Charles School run to know that he's recovering from something, because Zdarsky is like, hey, editorial really wants me to push this. Daredevil's recovering from something, but he can have sex like 5 pages earlier.
Priorities, man. Priorities.
I mean, I thought part of the religion was no sex till marriage, but
Well, again, that's the Catholic guilt. That's where that'll come back in.
But he's not guilty. He was proud of it. He goes back to the office of Fog and he's like, "Hey, man, you see what I did?"
Oh, he makes a much worse decision in the next story arc, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like Matt Murdock's one of those guys. Like I don't know how long like a Catholic confessional is usually allowed. Like how much time is usually allotted for. But if it's
you can
like
literally go every day.
I was gonna say if you're like allotted an hour a day, for instance, Matt Murdock's one of those guys. They'll give him 5.
Yeah, they got to clear the whole afternoon if Matt Murdock's coming in. They're like, we're gonna be here a little while.
Matt's coming to make your popcorn.
He's got to call ahead like 2 weeks in advance. Like, hey man,
or they can just have like a nun like on duty.
Just go ahead and clear your schedule.
Take me to church.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Take me to church. Okay,
but I think it's in that sequence, like even it's kind of perfect that Zdarsky had that soul story as the lead-in though, because the reason why he messes up, and I want to describe it a little more in detail because I'm looking at the page here. In the fight, he kind of like leans back and elbows a guy, and when he elbows the guy flies back into the wall, and the guy like hits the wall head first, and that head trauma kills the guy.
Right. No spoilers.
So Dick Grayson in Injustice.
Sorry. Oh no, I'm kidding. We're supposed to spoil. We're spoiling.
But that the fact that he is recovering is why he's so sloppy. So it kind of gives Zdarsky a perfect end to tell this larger story that he wants to tell about the personal responsibility of superheroes, specifically Matt Murdock.
Right. But anyway, yeah, so we flip to North, who is investigating the scene. He finds Daredevil's baton, and Wilson Fisk is at home watching the news. He sees Daredevil's kind of a news headline pop up, so everyone goes silent, and they drop the ball that we see Daredevil laying on his bed full of blood, as he usually is. If you're a fan of Daredevil, if you've read any Daredevil, you know it's nothing new to see him bloody, all blooded up on his bed, but it was like kind of like he's in awe, or like he's in desperation. Like I think that this page, I'm just gonna you're gonna see when I edit this, is you're gonna see him just lying in like full desperation. Like this is like the first time, like since probably the Miller run, where you've ever really seen Daredevil helpless. Like I haven't seen him this helpless since the death of Elektra. Really. And he was like balled out. It was issue like 190, not 190, that was her resurrection. 182 was when he was like completely sprawled out on her gravestone, I believe.
Yeah, and then he went kind of crazy in Born Again.
Yeah,
definitely went kind of crazy.
It actually, there's a specific run that it reminds me of, which is the one that follows right after Frank Miller, and I know that Zdarsky has kind of used this one as a lot of inspiration from interviews I've read with him, which is the Andesenti run.
Right.
And that's a run I really like, champion a lot, because I think it's deeply underrated.
Yes.
But in that run, you have a similar thing in the Typhoid Mary story in particular, where Matt is just like washed out. He's like over and done with. And I think this is kind of the funny thing about the Daredevil character, is that Marvel will let you do anything to Matt Murdock. You can totally ruin this dude's life. And I think that's kind of why so many great writers are drawn to the character, because they know they'll have more freedom than like Peter Parker or like Captain America. Like there's only so much you could do to Peter Parker, Captain America. Daredevil, they're like, ruin this guy's life, go for it.
That's right. And this is a very subtle point like that you're making as well, is if you know Hell's Kitchen, Marvel doesn't let you cross over any heroes into Hell's Kitchen, because Hell's Kitchen will corrupt him. Like, so there's an interview where Zdarsky was on, and he was talking about how much hell he went through just to have Spider-Man come in for 2 freaking pages. Okay? But there's a reason why you're only seeing Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist in these stories, is because they're already fucked up characters anyway. Or Hawkeye. Hawkeye. No. Marvel will let you fuck up Hawkeye too. Make no mistake. I don't think I've ever seen a happy Hawkeye. I think the happiest I've seen him was when he was Ronin in New Avengers, and that's saying something. But
oh my god.
But what's great about this first issue, because we just wrapped that up, is it's a good Daredevil story when you come away and you question life. You question your beliefs. You question what's going on. Like this first issue, like I walked away with like 50 thoughts in my head. Like this book makes you think. It really does. 100%.
I think that's really its greatest strength, and it's funny going back because I have been reading this pretty much month to month. I think I caught up
from Jump, right?
Not from Jump. I think I caught up on like the first 2 trades, and then from there I've been reading it month to month. So I would say the bulk that I've been reading month to month, and it's almost 40 issues now. The run.
They're on 30.
33 came out a couple weeks ago.
Okay,
yeah.
So even fewer. So it really I'm so impressed with the economy of storytelling that Zdarsky has pulled off. Because going back and rereading these issues after getting up to issue 33, I was like, wow, so much has changed since these first 10 issues. And you would think in my head, I was like, it must be like we're up to issue 40 now, right? Like, no, we're only on issue 33, and these stories have been massive. And I think Zdarsky's done a great job of really telling impactful stories that don't feel overstuffed, that are given the time to breathe, but also build on each other in a really interesting way. So I can't stress enough what a great run this has been. And it's great going back and rereading this and seeing just how much things have evolved since the first issue.
I think Checchetto's art is a treat. Checchetto's art is a visual treat. And the coloring of Hell's Kitchen, especially like the fire and everything, is also very pleasing on the eyes. Like, I'm colorblind to mainly red and orange type, but when I can distinguish the difference, I'm a very happy person.
I was gonna say, if you're red and orange colorblind, I'm sorry when you're reading. I'm sorry when you're reading Daredevil, because that's pretty much all it is.
No, but here's the thing: when I was reading Batman Who Laughs, I had to have someone read it to me.
Right, because his speech bubbles are like black and red, right?
Yeah, and I couldn't see the red. I saw red, I just couldn't see letters. I saw like a red box, and I saw like Chamber of Secrets font, but I couldn't see the letters.
Wow, they really messed that up. Then they really didn't think about people.
I had it I ended up reading it digitally, and I just like turned up the brightness, and I had to read it in pitch black so I can like make it out. But like I was reading the first issue with my buddy. The old co-host to this channel for all the longtime fans, and he had to read me the first issue because I couldn't do it because we'd review it for the show, and I was like, dude, I'm like, God damn it. So, I just want to say how pleasing this story is on the eyes, especially the first few issues, and it continues to be that way as well. I know that Daredevil has had a lot of news lately, which is kind of why we want to jump on this now. We're going to get into our thoughts of how they're going to move forward with that news, because there's a lot of like teasing of, it's ending at issue 37, or it's not ending at issue 37, or we're doing something else. We're not done yet. Like, solicitation says they're done. Fans say they're done, but Zdarsky's like, no, fuck you people.
I'll get into my thoughts on that, because I have a very set in stone theory of what I think.
I have. If it doesn't happen, I'm gonna I don't know. You're gonna come on the stream and there's gonna be like a hole here, a headbutt here, and I'm just like, maybe like a ripped. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it if they don't do it right. If Marvel screws over this title, I will.
Watching WandaVision when Mephisto didn't show up. That's how Brandon's gonna react.
No. It's all those freaking flippers who spent $1,500 on that damn 9.2 or whatever, how much they spent. I don't even know what a 9.2 is going for. All you motherfucking speculators on the hobby. God damn it! I've never seen a book inflate that much just for it to throw back in your face. And then the little horns and Loki. I feel like Kevin Feige did the same thing, saying, "Aha, fuck you back." But anyway, let's go on to the story. Issue 2, we're coming around. We're seeing North training. We're seeing we finally see what Foggy's up to, who's kind of running the business, kind of running the law firm, doing it all on his own. And Daredevil is in denial. He is in such denial. He's like, I didn't do it. There is no way. It's like every football fan when they see Tom Brady coming back another season. He's not winning another Super Bowl. He's not even going to make it.
Yeah, I like him being like, no, this is definitely Kingpin. Kingpin definitely.
He's like, somebody set me up. Like, someone set me up. He's like, it was Kingpin. So he like leaps out, kind of like that Black Widow pose we saw in the movie. Like, such a poser, you know? And meanwhile, like, the autopsy's being ran. They're like, yeah, Daredevil fucked him up. And these are, like, the same doctors who did it. So Daredevil meets up with the doctor because he thinks the doctor was corrupted. But he's able to hear the doctor's heartbeat. He's like, no, you did it. Like, you actually killed me. And he's like, I know how much control you usually have because you're so precise. And then the doctor's like, you're wasting your talents, bro. You should have been a doctor.
That is such an interesting thing that I love that brings to the table, because I can't recall any other Daredevil writer kind of like putting forward this idea of like, no, Matt Murdock is like a surgeon because of his extrasensory abilities, and also just like mastery of the body from all of his, ninja training. That he is so precise, that he is so precise in his movements. And I think that's such an interesting idea of someone being like, Daredevil didn't have to become a crime fighter. Like, there's so much that he still could have done. But on the flip side of that, what if indeed? But on the flip side of that, the sad irony is that doctor says that without knowing that Matt Murdock is blind. So if Matt Murdock shows up the first day of medical school and is like, I want to be a surgeon, he's going to get laughed out of the building unless he's like, no, you don't understand. I was trained by a ninja and I got hit by toxic waste as a child.
He still won't get laughed at?
He would have to give up his identity.
That's like me in second grade going to Disney World, come back saying, I want to be a Jedi, here's proof. And their kids just laughing at me.
But that's that line, I had never considered that before, but there is kind of a sad tragedy to Matt Murdock in that the world will always judge him by his handicap, when in reality he's capable of so much more. And there's definitely something there, metaphorically speaking, in the way that society views people who have physical disabilities or even mental disabilities. But yeah, the guy says that, and I was like, wow, he's right, but at the same time, he's wrong. There's a potential there that I could have done more, but I don't know if society would have given him the opportunities.
Well, when Batman fans say with a little prep time, Batman can do anything, you're right, but you're wrong.
Like with prep time, Batman could beat God. I'm like, well, he'd beat Darkseid, so you're kind of right.
He just sat on the Mobius chair and saw 3 Jokers.
Oh, Lord.
That's just Jeff Johns stroking his thing. But anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
But anyway, we get a little bit of Macho Man.
Let's not get sexual with Jeff Johns, okay?
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to be a little Macho Man here with Detective North and Kingpin. They finally meet, and there's like so much masculinity in this scene because Detective North is like, he's like, I'm showing up. He's like, yeah, I could have called you, but I showed up just to say fuck you to your face. And Kingpin's like, well, fuck you. That was basically their conversation.
I really like Zdarsky's portrayal of Kingpin, and I like that he's kind of the co-lead of this book.
Yes.
Like, it's the comic could be called Daredevil and Kingpin. Like, I think he's exploring Kingpin in a way that no one ever really has, and we can get into this a little bit more later in the story, but I really like what Zdarsky does with Kingpin in this 10 issue, and then going forward especially. It gets really interesting.
Right. I also love kind of the display that North puts on, or what Zdarsky gives North. Now, keep in mind, Zdarsky is doing everything methodically, so it's not North is doing this for a reason. Zdarsky is instilling this into North for a reason, and he's kind of putting that whole untouchable thing about North. Right. He's like, I'm not going to let anyone break me. Daredevil's not going to break me to the point where I'm going to let him do what he's doing. Kingpin is not going to bribe me to be a bad cop. I'm putting an end to all this bullshit, but we're going to eventually get to a little learning lesson for Detective North down the road. It's just, I love when he shows up. He's like, I'm not scared of you, but at the end of the time, he's like, God damn, you're huge. He's like, I should have done arms. Like 2 scenes later, we're going to see him back punching the bag. Like, I got to get there.
Which, I mean, if there is one physically imposing figure in this book that could hold a candle to Wilson Fisk, it would be Cole North.
Yeah.
Like, Cole North isn't anybody to sneeze at either. Like, if he walked up to me, especially flashing his badge, I'd be terrified.
I would just say, you want to grab a beer?
Well, he's very much the if I could make a Les Miserables reference, he's the Javert, right? He's the like stern, like unbreakable symbol of justice, and no matter how unreasonable that may be, that is what he sees himself as. Like, he will not bend, he will not break, like you were saying, and he's kind of necessary in this story because it gives another counterpoint, another foil to Daredevil and Wilson Fisk.
Right. Back to the story, we see Daredevil sitting down with the nun, And he's like still convincing himself that he didn't do it. He's like, well, if I did, he's like, I'm good, right? I'm great. I do good shit. I do good stuff. I'm a good person. And then he's like, I use violence, but I'm also compassionate. He's like, instead of like going all the way through, I'll just kick them in the liver so they fall over. He's like, I would never kill someone, but if I did, how would I convey that to like Luke Cage and his daughter and Jessica Jones? Yes. And then he's like asking the other flip side question. He's like, will these villains take me seriously? Will they fear me? And then we kind of get a flash of the Owl, who we're going to see play a little bit of a role in here, which I love.
Oh yeah,
and
that was great.
Right. So Daredevil's out, and then he gets attacked by Detective North. So North and his partner are confronting Daredevil, and Daredevil knocks out his partner, which is going to lead to some injuries down the road. And then Daredevil got shot. But then we go to the next issue. After Daredevil gets shot, so we're left wondering, oh my gosh, what happens? Brian, did you want to talk about issue 3?
Oh, I'm so glad you gave me this opportunity because this issue rules. So issue 2 ends with Daredevil's shot. It seems like it's like donezo. Then all of a sudden, machine gun fire from the rooftops. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody's freaking out. Somebody like grabs Detective North from behind, chokes him out. Matt Murdock like goes out cold. He wakes up. He hears a heartbeat. He recognizes.
Wait, that's the next issue.
He doesn't open his eyes because he hit. That's the end of issue 2.
That's the
right?
end of issue 3.
Oh, am I jumping ahead too far? I think I jumped ahead too far.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, I apologize.
Dare you?
I apologize. So issue 3 is the big like throwdown with the North, right? And this is a great issue. Going back to what you were saying about Mark, is it Checchetto? I'm not sure how to pronounce his name exactly.
Marco Checchetto.
Yeah, this whole issue is basically like a giant chase because Matt Murdock gets shot and he manages to get free. So Cole North and his partner are chasing Daredevil through New York. It basically ends with a point where Murdock and North are throwing down like fisticuffs with a like gang of cops surrounding them like it's a schoolyard like throwdown.
Right, it was like the Mayweather fight that just happened.
Yeah, there's a great moment where like the cops like North is like arrest him and Daredevil like looks over at one of the cops is like, hey, how's your partner doing? Like he basically like plays all of his connections, like making it clear to North like these cops are on my side, dude. Like you're in this kitchen, you're in my city, they're with me.
Right, and then the other ones, Kingpin is just watching. He's just there spectating. He's like, he's just like, that role is so powerful just because he's not doing anything. He doesn't have to. Like, yeah, he's mayor.
Right.
But he's like, I have cops that will take you both out if I want. I'm just here for fun.
Right. There's a great line in like the opening scene where Wesley's like letting him know what's happening and they're leaving a banquet. And Kingpin's like, I have spent my entire life trying to ruin Daredevil. And for the first time in my life, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to go sit back and enjoy this. Like, I love that little, like,
he's treating it like a movie.
Right. He says it. He says, he's like, I'm going to watch this movie.
They just need to, like, have a panel with him, like, a giant thing of popcorn, just, like, chowing down. Because that's really what he's doing in this moment. And Cole North,
would that be giant to him?
Yes, it would be to scale.
It would be like that extra large thing they give at the movie theater. Absolutely. That's really like not that big.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous.
It wouldn't be a bucket of popcorn. It'd be like a barrel.
Okay, it would be a barrel.
Precisely. But yeah, and they just kind of throw down with each other. And Checchetto's art in this moment is just like beautiful. Like he's not only just like his art is like obviously stunning, but like the facial expressions in particular as they're just like laying into each other. Like there's shots of Murdock where he just looks like so tired and exhausted. You feel every punch in this sequence. There's a part where North like slams him down onto the police car and glass is just flying up. Like so many great details in the art that just make this whole fight sequence so impactful.
To your point, I love how there's not like when the punches are landing, there's no onomatopoeia. that we usually see in comics. And I think that is very much because the art is so dynamic.
Yeah.
It packs it for you. And I think that they're just trying to emphasize, okay, yeah, this is great. Yeah. Like, you're going to feel this the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
like this,
you don't need the boom to know it's there.
Exactly. And he's already recovering from getting hit by a truck, and now he's like just getting the tar beat out of him by Detective North. It's great. It's awesome. And then now I'll jump to where I was before. I apologize. And then
you are never forgiven.
Catholic guilt. I'll carry it with me forever. And then, he's got Daredevil under arrest. All of a sudden, machine gun fire from the roofs. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's panicking. Smoke grenades going off. Somebody comes up behind Detective North, knocks him out, and takes Matt Murdock away. Matt Murdock wakes up, and who else could it be but Frank Castle, the Punisher, which is like perfect way to end a comic, in my opinion. Perfect.
Yeah, the next issue 3 was great, but to me, like you mentioned, Frank Castle, who plays a heavy role in issue 4. Issues 4 and 5 to me are probably the best 2 issues in this entire.
How about you speak about issue 4? You want to speak about issue 4, Bryce?
I don't have it in front of me. I don't have it in front of me. I remember flashes of stuff that happened, and I remember the way I felt when I read it. But if you ask me to sit here and recount it, I can't at the moment.
So Daredevil wakes up, obviously, after getting the living crap beaten out, and he is in Frank Castle's little bunker, and Frank Castle's like rewarding him in a sense, and also like giving him another chance. He's like, you are finally part of me. He's like, you did it. You crossed the line. I'm so proud of you, my friend. And he's like, you read. I'm proud of you. Good job. You
treat him like his son.
I don't know. I feel like I just sounded like Sylvester Stallone. I feel like that's what old Frank Castle would sound like, is Sylvester Stallone. I don't know why, but tell me more.
Old Frank Castle would sound like King Shark.
Old man Frank, Sylvester Stallone. I'm sold.
He would sound like King Shark.
Yo, I just saw the movie the other day, and I thought it was so underrated.
That's hilarious.
Oh no, overrated. I'm sorry, overrated. I didn't like it that much. It was okay at best.
Well, it's funny that you say Stallone, considering Dolph Lundgren played the Punisher, his nemesis in Rocky IV.
I will never forgive Dolph Lundgren for killing Apollo.
Nor should you.
But anyway, I digress. So there's this guy who's there who was one of the people that Daredevil originally beat up, one of the other people. So one of the 3. The one was dead, and then this is another guy, I believe. Or was this guy a cop?
I think he's just a random.
I think he's a thug.
Random.
I thought he was one of the thugs from the first issue.
Who works for the Owl specifically.
Okay.
No, because this guy specifically works for the Owl, because Punisher's like questioning him about where the Owl's hideout is.
Okay. Right. Yes. Correct. So Daredevil, it doesn't want to kill him, but Frank's like, no, see, you did it. Now you go do it again. And again, you'll be even more like me. But because that's coming from Frank Castle, that puts Daredevil really in the position where he's like, yeah, I killed him. So Daredevil leaves, and he grabs a shirt, but he grabs the Punisher shirt, which is very ironic because it kind of brings out that dual personality that we can often portray Daredevil as. Is he almost like the Punisher who just doesn't kill people? Or is he becoming the Punisher because he did kill?
There's kind of a hilarious joke about it where in the next issue where people, I think it's Luke Cage is like, you're running with a Punisher shirt on, and Matt's like, oh, is that what this is? Like, he probably didn't see what was on it because he can't see. He just grabbed
exactly.
Right, he just grabbed a shirt and
his senses are all over the place, so he really can't tell the heat of like what color it is.
But I want to backtrack a little bit because I think you're making a great point there, Brandon, that like it is a great visual symbol of this moral gray area that Matt Murdock is slipping into. And I'm someone who's not a big Punisher guy. My favorite Punisher stories are where Punisher is an antagonist, particularly if he's a Daredevil antagonist. I think every Punisher story I like is when it's like him against Daredevil in some way. But again, he's another great, like, if we were drawing like a map of morality here for this book, you know, you'd have Cole North on the very far end of one spectrum, you'd have Matt Murdock, you'd have Punisher, and then you'd have Kingpin, right? So Zdarsky adding Punisher in this moment is another great way to analyze the morality of the superhero, right? Like, is Punisher doing the right thing, even though he crosses the line in a major way? Is there a difference between what he does and Matt Murdock does? Matt Murdock might not kill, but people do get hurt because of Matt Murdock. What is morally right in this situation?
Right. Also, families are still defeated, right? Families are still taken away, right? Because it's like, if Daredevil beats someone up and they go to jail for a very long time.
Yeah.
That's, in a sense, killing the family unit, in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And
like, imagine if your father like left you as a kid, or like, right? Because a lot of these people that Daredevil is putting in jail are younger adults, right? Or more newer fathers. Even like some newer wives are newer mothers. So is Daredevil doing what's best for that family? Especially because we're learning in this issue that some of the people that Daredevil's putting behind bars are in a situation where it's like, okay, yeah, I have to, right? Because the system is broken and the system is rejecting me, I'm resorting to crime, right? Again, that whole scenario is my doing bad outweighing the good that I'm throwing into my family.
And beyond just like them having a family potential, like even if they don't, I'm applying the same logic of our current society to the Marvel Universe, obviously, but you know, getting out of prison, being an ex-con, someone who was once in jail, that's not an easy transition to make back into society. Our society often makes it actively hard for people who were in jail to acclimate back into society. So even if he's not like someone who's a family, like that person's life is going to be sullied for the rest of their existence because they spent that time in prison. So they might not have been murdered by the Punisher, but their life is probably going to be actively harmful because of the actions of Daredevil.
Right. Which is Daredevil. Who gives Daredevil the right to do it? That's the other question that's brought up in this book. Who gave him that privilege to decide who goes to jail, who he goes after, really? Because Daredevil's very methodical about who he goes after. That's another point to make, is Daredevil's not stupid. He knows who he's going after. And now in issue 5, we're going to go after the Owl. Brian, did you want to take the lead on this one again?
Yeah, sure. So I did want to mention one quick thing from issue 4 that we glossed over, which is just like a rad as hell moment, which is when Daredevil picks up 2 of Punisher's guns and then like shoots Frank Castle. Yeah, and then just like shoots Frank Castle in a bunch of places that won't kill him. Like he shoots him in like his Kevlar vest and like in his kneecap. And he's like, you do realize if I ever like was like you'd be dead. Like I would be a murdering machine if I ever chose to pick up guns the way you do. But I don't.
Daredevil would be a better Punisher than Frank Castle ever thought about being if he felt like it.
Yes.
Yeah, he'd basically be at Bullseye's level, probably better actually, because Bullseye doesn't have the extrasensory abilities. So yeah, we move then to the Owl's hideout. There's actually a really like tension building scene where the guy who the Punisher captured, he says where the hideout is. Punisher's like, you're lying, but Matt can hear the guy's heartbeat. He's like, he's not lying, Frank. Like that's actually where they are. So he takes that address. He goes to the Owl's hideout. The Owl's got this like dude with like knockoff brand Stark Tech providing muscle for him. And Daredevil jumps in, like we said, wearing a Punisher shirt, giving very mixed messages to everybody around him. But he jumps in, he starts wrecking house. He gets into a throwdown fight with the guy in the knockoff Stark Tech. There's a great moment where the guy in the Stark Tech like has Matt Murdock, like he's choking him, and Matt Murdock like throws a chain onto this van that's driving away and then hooks it onto the back of the armor, and the guy just gets driven off, and Murdock's like surfing on the armor as it's getting dragged behind him. So rad.
Armor surfing, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Scarlet Surfer.
Scarlet Surfer, yeah, perfect. So he's beating these dudes up. In come the Netflix version of the Defenders. So you've got Iron Fist, you've got Luke Cage, you've got Jessica Jones. They come in to provide background, because if you're just watching this on the news, it looks like Daredevil's gone totally off the rails because he's running around beating people up in a Punisher shirt. Again, not a great message to be sending if you've just been accused of murder recently on the news. And then that scene kind of culminates in one of what I think is one of the more interesting conversations in the comic, which is Matt, Jessica, Danny, and Luke all kind of talking to him like, what's been going on with you? Like, we're worried about you. We're concerned about you.
Right.
You are acting in a very erratic way. And Matt says, like, a guy died because of me. Like, I messed up. Somebody died because of me. And they kind of give him a more like, well, look, like, that happens sometimes. Like, we do this job, and sometimes people are unfortunately going to die. And that's the risk we have to take. And Matt's very shaken by this. Like, he says,
goes
you're
deeper
all
into his existential crisis that's been going on.
yeah. It was maybe the worst thing they could have said to him in that moment. He even says, like, you're all murderers. He's very shaken by this and flees the apartment building.
Right, but it was mostly because like how nonchalant they acted when he like came across as like, I murdered someone. They're like, it happens, like, bro, like, that's what happens in our line of work. But because Daredevil is a perfectionist, because he always like achieve that level of perfection in everything that he does in his court of law, in his training with Stick, he has achieved nothing but perfection. Even look at the women he's brought home, nothing but perfection.
Oh my gosh.
How did you guys? Can I ask a question to you guys? Like, how did you feel about that scene? Like, I was like had mixed feelings about it initially, but then I was kind of like, well, if anyone's gonna say that to him, I feel like Luke, Danny, and Jessica would be the characters who would. I shouldn't say nonchalant because it's not like they murder people, but I think they're characters who would maybe have come to terms with that fact. I don't know. What was your thoughts about that scene?
The only other character, and I don't think he would be as nonchalant about it, but because of his particular circumstances and the things he's been through, the only other character that I could see really trying to say the whole it's part of the job, it sucks, but it happens kind of route would be Steve Rogers.
Sure.
But Luke, Luke, Danny, and Jessica, especially Luke and Jessica, in my opinion. Danny, I feel like
they could have left Danny out.
Danny, I feel like, was a tad out of place, but also not at the same time. He was just kind of there.
I love Iron Fist, but I don't think that a lot of times Danny should be relatively placed in Hell's Kitchen like the way that he usually is, or like he has been.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times like writers get confused of Danny's role and they just like throw him in New York, whatever, just because like the Netflix show placed him there. And I feel like Marvel in some backhanded way try to promote characters that we see on the big screen, even like no matter how big or how little. And because Iron Fist wasn't completely a bust, and they're still to a degree trying to push the whole Defenders initiative, pun intended, Avengers initiative, Defenders initiative, that they just threw him in there. Like, he wasn't part of the original Defenders, right? None of them were.
But I would push back again.
The Inhumans are an exception.
The whole Heroes for Hire story, which dates back to the 70s.
Yeah.
Like here, but because the problem with that is like Heroes for Hire, the whole like gag there is like Danny's a fish out of water. Like Luke Cage is like, oh, I got to deal with this white boy who doesn't know anything about like living in the city. I got to teach him everything. And now it's kind of like gone on for so long that it does kind of feel weird that Danny is still hanging out in New York. But that's also that
he's a third relationship. Yeah,
that's true too.
He's a big old third wheel to him and Jessica. I feel like Jessica already had like a relationship with Matt in her origin all the way back in when Bendis was doing the book. Mostly because Daredevil's a character that Bendis really liked doing. And when he created Jessica Jones, Luke Cage was an avenue for them, but Iron Fist never really fit in until creators down the road were like, let's do something with this. Until they kind of do it.
I'm just envisioning Jessica, Luke, and Danny in a like you, me, and Dupree kind of situation. Like I don't know. I'm envisioning the movie poster with like Iron Fist in the middle.
I like Jessica and Luke being there.
Yeah.
Actually, I like Jessica being there more for Daredevil than Luke, because I think Jessica is I feel like Luke is honest, but he doesn't always portray his emotions as coherently as Jessica. Because I feel like she's more in touch with how exactly she feels, how exactly she wants to word things as a character. and as
She's
a friend to
blunt. She'll
Daredevil,
tell you how it is. Yeah.
right. But Luke will whip you into shape, and I don't think that's what Daredevil needed at the time. I think it would have been better because Jessica's a little bit more calming too.
Yeah.
The other thing about the two characters is they're kind of mirrors. Like they've been through very similar ways of depression to the point where I feel like Jessica would have a better sense of what he was going through, to where Danny and Luke are kind of immortal to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Like I loved Spider-Man's role that we're going to talk about in a hot minute.
That I was just thinking about that. Like,
and I think to what you were saying, Bryce, is when it comes down to these kind of conversations, also with like kind of the whole New York hero status, I don't think Steve would have been the one for the job. I feel like if anything, it really should have been Jessica.
Well, yeah, Steve wouldn't have been the best option, but I think he may have fit a little better than Danny, just because Daredevil and Captain America do have a good bit of background. Actually, they've been teaming up from time to time since Frank Miller's run.
Yeah, but it's not pushed. That's the other thing. Is like, all these characters have some form of relationship to each other. I mean, hell, there was Marvel Team Up. There was 2-in-1. That literally every character can have a relationship with Spider-Man. Every character can have a relationship with the Thing. And every like third year, the Fantastic Four drops a member and puts She-Hulk in the mix for some reason. But
or Luke Cage that one time.
Or we're constantly going to retcon how Johnny like married a Skrull. Whatever the hell that writers want to do with their characters, they all know each other. So, some know each other more.
And speaking of that idea of mirrors, like you brought up before, like you have the New York Defenders on one side of the like, look, sometimes bad things happen. This is something we've all had to cope with, and we accept that that's part of the job. Versus Spider-Man, who has the no dies philosophy, right? Who has the like great power, great responsibility. We have to keep everyone alive. Again, that different aspect of the morality. And the issue ends with that great moment where Spider-Man comes in, is like, "You're done, dude. Like you're like out. I don't want to see you on the streets anymore." Yeah. And it's
like, dude, if I see you on the street again, I will bring you in, and I won't hold back.
Right.
And this is the funny thing about Chip Zdarsky. Chip Zdarsky, I think, is the best modern Peter Parker writer, and yet he's never actually written Amazing Spider-Man. But he's done through like,
because we had 3 where we're in the middle of the biggest shit show. Don't get me started. I will rant. We're not talking about Nick Spencer Spider-Man. You
don't want to get put it on Nick Spencer. Otherwise, we'll be here for another hour.
I just mean it in the sense of like, that's not, look, Nick Spencer's here. Whatever. That's not here nor there. I just think it's funny that like Zdarsky has built up a great like catalog of amazing Spider-Man stories without even totally unintentional. Amazing Spider-Man stories without ever writing the main flagship book. And I think that says something about how good of a Spider-Man writer he is, that he knows how to build in these great moments without needing to do it over the course of many issues. He can like bang it out like a 6-issue miniseries or whatever it is. Or like this, where this is Peter Parker living up to "with great power comes great responsibility." He's saying, I have power in this moment, and I'm taking the responsibility to say, you are benched. You're done.
Yeah, you're cut off. See ya. No more drinks.
Yeah.
Which that's
what it is.
That's probably my favorite like version. Like people always try to make Peter Parker to be just this quick. They almost kind of portray him as Booster Gold sometimes, where he's nothing but quips. Nothing but quips.
Right.
Yeah,
but he's often written best and portrayed the best, even on screen, when he has that chip on his shoulder.
Tobey Maguire, thank you.
Honestly though, writing aside, I thought Andrew Garfield did the best job with that.
We could do a whole nother podcast just debating who's the best Spider-Man. Live action Spider-Man.
We could. I will say, writing aside, if he had been written better, I think it would be Andrew Garfield, no contest.
Brandon's like mentally writing his argument, Nick Spencer argument right now in his head. I can see it.
I love Tobey Maguire, but Andrew Garfield.
But you are right, Bryce, that like too often people are like, he's a quip machine. It's like, he does the quips, but the quips are used against his enemies.
They're so silly.
They're a coping mechanism too.
They're a coping mechanism, absolutely. But when the chips are down, and those moments where he gets the opportunity for you to see, like, he's a leader in a sense. He is
Very
like
much so.
an example for other heroes.
Right.
That's, I think, such an interesting aspect of the character that doesn't get explored much, but is still there. And that's such a great moment of him to be like, Daredevil, you're done. And Murdoch listens, like, which I think says a lot about how he feels about Spider-Man, how much he respects him. That he's like, yeah, here's the mask. I'm done.
Right. And to your point about Zdarsky, also, I don't know if y'all read his Fantastic Four and X-Men, but I don't really want him writing X-Men, but I would love to see him write more Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
I would love for him and Terry Dodson to do a Fantastic Four story after Dan Slott in 700 years, whenever
that would be great.
Whenever Dan Slott, when what's left of his black hair turns gray, whenever he gets off the book, and we're all having gray hair by then, I feel like, but
yeah, no, I think he would rock that book.
I think Zdarsky, and because like I was looking at the way Dodson was drawing like Mr. Fantastic and all these characters, like that's great. I want this. Yeah. Why haven't you done this before? And Zdarsky's writing a Fantastic Four was stellar.
We did a great moment with Mr. Fantastic later in this book.
His 2-in-1 was great. His 2-in-1 was fantastic too. Now, here's the thing. Here's about all y'all new Chip Zdarsky fans. Y'all don't know he wrote Invaders. Y'all don't know he wrote 2-in-1. Y'all don't know he's ever touched Spider-Man before. Go read him.
See, I knew he wrote Invaders, but I was still newer to this book at the time, so I just didn't care.
I was like, Bryce, you're sleeping on it. You're like, no. And you hit the snooze button like for 2 years now.
for Invaders or for this book? I've been reading this book.
Invaders.
Okay, I was going to say, well, nobody read Invaders.
I read Invaders. I have every issue. Jeez, that was a great run, man. That was like the most asshole name where you're going to have, other than the wedding of Dr. Doom, where he just laughed out loud.
Or anytime he's shown up in X-Men recently.
Oh, no, that was just being a douche, not a dick. All right, so anyway.
And that's how that first arc ends. That's the end of that first arc.
And to pick up the next issue, 6 through 10, which I forgot to say in the beginning of the video, this recaps issues 1 through 10. If you're still listening, good work. These issues should go by relatively quickly because this is where we're learning about the crime bosses. And we really start with this art. This new art style is such a shift. Where
very much so.
I think because I don't know. I think the coloring really threw me off. Not the style of the art, but like the way it's portrayed in the daylight. Because like Checchetto is very tight, and it still has like kind of that glare that something is going to come. This is a much smoother palette, I feel like, going forward, and it just has like a softer touch. It's more. I feel like in this, like less is like not really doing more, but it's there. You know, and we're dealing with, okay, Daredevil hung up the mask. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, like, I agree with you. Go ahead, Bryce. I'm sorry.
No, I thought you were.
No, I was going to say, I think the art style is definitely, it's definitely a step down from Checchetto. Like, it's not bad. Like, I can't draw this well, that's for sure. You know what I mean? But I think it suits what the kind of like shift in the story a little bit, where it's not quite as action heavy. It's a lot more discussion. It's a lot more dialogue. And I think the thing that suits this story best is a lot of the facial expressions. I think the artist of this particular part of the run, I'm going to look up their name in a second because I'm blanking on it.
It is Lalit Kumar Sharma.
Okay, yeah. I think that they do a really nice job with facial acting and expressions, which I think this part of the arc really needs, because there's a lot of really like intense, suspenseful dialogue scenes versus Checchetto's arc where, like, you know, Daredevil's like picking up guns and shooting his out of nothing quite as action-packed happens in this part of the story. But I think for what the script calls for, I think it's effective.
Right, and this gives Checchetto the break that he needs to draw everything. Because if you guys have been reading this, you're up to this point. Checchetto takes his time, and that's no secret.
And I mean, I'm glad he does.
Which is fine. Like, I'd rather. Yeah, exactly. I would rather they give him the time to do the more explosive issues, especially some of the stuff that comes later in the run, than try to like rush it or have this book be like delayed for months and months because he can't meet the deadline, which is like, it is what it is.
Which Zdarsky's been great about deadlines, which is to his credit. Like, you look at Tyne and you look at Zdarsky, you look at Hickman, they're all hitting their benchmarks, right? All these like writers who are like handling multiple titles, they're all doing a great job of their deadlines, which is fantastic. Like, not only is he writing this, he's writing Stillwater, he is writing Just the Glass Ride, and he's writing What If, or at least he's starting these projects. So you may not be writing them currently.
He's a machine. He writes so much.
Yeah, he was doing Urban Legends at the time.
He was doing Urban Legends.
During this time, he was still doing Invaders.
Yeah, or like the scripting was like in the process. Yeah, and during this time he was doing Invaders, or it was just wrapping up.
Yeah.
So, and then he was also doing the X-Men Fantastic Four.
X-Men Fantastic Four, true.
During the early segments of this run. This is like right at the jump. So it's like Zdarsky has been writing a lot, and I think that because he was like such a, I won't say he wasn't big, he was there, he didn't have the following. Because what was his biggest project? He wasn't like a household name. Like clearly, like everyone who knows Chip Zdarsky knows Sex Criminals. Which is a very fantastic book that I want to continue reading. I read a few issues, but you know, he's had a bunch of other projects. It's just nothing as well renounced as this, and he just took everything by storm.
That's what's so funny is it's like when he started getting these gigs, I was like, the guy who does the like funny boner jokes, like that guy, he's like writing Spider-Man and all these high-profile things. And then I read, because I think Life Stories, even Spider-Man Life Stories, is even coming out around the same time as these early issues. I read that, and that just like blew me away. I was like, oh, I'm going to read every Spider-Man thing he does, and I need to read Daredevil now. Like, I need to be reading more of his stuff, because Sex Criminals, I think he did a little bit of co-writing with Fraction, but he's primarily the artist. So
no, he did a lot of writing too. Like, I think they co-wrote or at least the back half.
But at the very least, I knew him as the artist of Sex Criminals. So seeing him getting so many writing gigs, I was like, oh, this is kind of surprising. And then I've started reading it. I'm like, wow, this is really impactful, thoughtful stuff. And I think this arc in particular is where you really get the thoughtful aspect of it, where Matt becomes the parole officer, where we get the doors closing in on Detective North. Yes. And then
not Misty Knight, but Misty. Misty. We're going to learn, but wait, we're talking about Misty.
Mindy Libras?
Not Misty. I was thinking Misty. Okay, never mind. I got half. Give me half credit, y'all. But anyway, but yeah, Zdarsky is really just taking comics by storm, and he's very methodical. I don't know if you guys read Spectacular Spider-Man 310, which was his farewell issue. Yes. It got nominated for an Eisner.
Oh my god!
It is
beautiful.
It was the first comic book that ever made me cry. And I remember bawling over how I gave it to my mother who doesn't read comics, and she had the same emotional reaction as me. That's how I don't want to say it was dope, because you see a lot of stuff that is not.
Oh man, it made me cry. It was
it's upsetting. Yeah, it's got some.
It was upsetting, but it was it was kind of dope upsetting, because not a lot of writers are tackling those aspects of comic books, of that loss. A lot of times in comics, when we don't experience loss, or it's hard for a comic book reader to get the sense of loss, because if we know comics are going to be back in 8 years, it's minimum. If it's DC, if it's DC with a Flash, we know they're a hamster on a wheel, they're running, they're going to come back. Or you're never going to get rid of Wolverine. Yeah, he's going to take a break, but he'll be back whenever CB Sapolsky has a role for him in whatever he's doing. But but that issue really, really, really made me feel like I lost something in the book,
Yeah, it's incredibly well done.
Which Zdarsky can tackle anything, and I think a lot of it is that mental barrier that writers kind of face. Well, will this go through? Zdarsky's fuck it, man, let's do it.
Yeah, my only complaint with this arc.
It's not a bad dick, so we'll do it.
my only complaint with this arc was the art, honestly. I don't know. I was reading issue 10 with Fornes. I thought he should have done the whole arc. But I wouldn't change anything about Zdarsky. I was telling you this last night when I was reading issue 6. I thought his Kingpin looked like Saitama from One Punch Man on crack.
That's very funny.
I thought you said it looked like Juggernaut.
No, okay. One panel looked like Juggernaut, but then there was a close-up of his face. I'm like, this looks like Saitama on Speed or something.
Oh my gosh!
But Zdarsky.
While we're on the topic of Juggernaut, yeah, the script across the board, I think, is great.
Near perfect.
While we're on that topic of of Kingpin, what did you guys think about the sort of like change in Kingpin we see here, where he decides like, I'm done with crime, I'm going legit, I'm going for higher aspirations?
Was that in this issue, or is that in the? That was like further down the line.
It kind of starts in this issue. I think this issue is where he kind of gathers the crime families together and says, "Hey, I'm out. Like, I'm no longer involved in illegitimate business."
I don't think that was this issue. That wasn't this issue. It was later down the book.
Oh, but you're right. I'm sorry.
We're gonna revisit that in a little bit. This issue, we learn about Mindy. Daredevil goes into a bookstore to buy a gift for Foggy that we're gonna learn about, and he meets her. And this is where we learn how Daredevil really picks up women. Where he's like, okay, she's not into me because her temperature is not warmed or is not elevated to mine, so she only views me as a friend. And
for now.
Yeah, for now.
For now, oh
but
Lord.
He leaves and he's like, but I'm not done. Even though she like, I don't know.
She said she was married.
And she said she was married. And she was married, but like Daredevil's like, hey, but you've never been with a blind guy. He said
Daredevil's already got his priest on speed dial. Like, hey man, I'm about to do something.
I'm gonna bang this really hot this really hot librarian.
Yeah, it's like but that's kind of the Matt Murdock thing, right? Is like he has this self-destructive nature, and now that he's no longer crime fighting, his self-destructive nature is coming out in like making bad decisions in relationships. Well,
come on, Hornhead.
Yeah, you know what get it.
Really living up to the name. But no, like it's him making those bad decisions again, right? Like he is a little bit reckless, and I think it's part of what makes him a compelling. I mean, he's called Daredevil for a reason. He's the man without fear. He's gonna make bad decisions in the process. Yeah,
it's like I know I keep mentioning the Netflix series, but no, it's like I'm not seeking penance for what I've done. I'm asking forgiveness for what I'm about to do.
And he went to town, man.
Good, but we'll get there.
Okay, yeah. So this is the issue where Kingpin's like, yeah, we're gonna call the families, but nothing actually happens yet. And we see Matt Murdock meeting with his client about the drugs, and he's like, Abel, and like this is a really the wit of Mac. He's like, yeah, I know what you're doing. He's like, there's a pee bag under there for the drug test. You reek of everything, and I'm trying to help you out. So F off.
And I really, again, like doing something new with the character. I like because he's specifically a parole officer here. He's like taking on this responsibility, like we talked about before. As Daredevil, he has put so many people in jail. Now he's kind of doing the opposite. He's trying to help people transition back into the real world. Like penance, right? It's him saying, like, what could I do to make up for my previous actions? Right. What if I try to help people who maybe I put in jail to transition back into the real world?
Right. And if Jay-Z is speaking to this book, it's a hard knock life for Detective Cole North, because he gets his ass kicked again, and one of the Owl's henchmen he's like, the Owl says thanks for killing Daredevil. Because North is like, because of that big fight scene, he's like, yeah, that's what drove him away. And the last thing you see before Daredevil gets punished, I don't want to say gets punished. Wow, that's what it's gonna come next with the chick, but dragged out by the Punisher. We know that was like the last thing you saw. So that's where we wrap up issue 7 or issue 6. We're going into issue 7 where North wakes up in the hospital. He's like, yeah, we are taking him down. He's like, we're taking the Owl down. This is where the crime families meet. So if you wanted to speak about that.
Yeah, I think what I like about this is Zdarsky saying, and I said earlier, like, Kingpin's kind of the co-lead of the book. I think this is the issue where that really starts and continues up until the point we're at now. But Zdarsky really like looked at Kingpin and said, like, well, he's mayor of New York. Like, what more does he need? Like, he won. So what could Wilson Fisk want next? And it's basically him saying, like, I have gotten all that I can being the Kingpin of crime. I now need to expand my horizons outward and become a legitimate economic powerhouse in some way, right? So he gathers all the crime families together, including the Owl, including is it Lizzie Libris? Is that her name? Something along those lines.
Izzy.
Izzy. Thank you, Izzy. Izzy Libris, name. Who is you got to get that comic book alliteration. That's why Izzy Libris, who is the mother-in-law of Mindy, which we learn later in the issue. But he gathers them all together and says, like, you're welcome to do what you want in Hell's Kitchen. You have to keep crime at a manageable level that isn't out of control to keep my end of things as the mayor looking good. But other than that, I'm done with all of you. I'm cutting all ties. Do what you want.
And I'll write you a check every once in a while when I feel like it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
He's like, keep doing you. Keep business booming. I'm out. But he also says that. He says also, I'm going to divide my forces. Like, you'll get a little bit, but we know that they're really spies. That's the other thing. He's not putting them there just like, I'm giving them to you. It's like, no, I'm giving them to you, but they're going to keep it. They're like playing babysitter. You know?
Playing babysitter, yeah.
Right.
Wait,
and I think
that's how he treats them.
And I think this is also a great moment, too, because, like, I think the Kingpin is a great character, but he's definitely one that runs the risk of getting stale if you're not able to find new ways to challenge him. And I think what makes him scary is he's usually like this unstoppable force, not physically, but because of the power that he wields in so many facets of society. But what's interesting about this is it's saying, like, what if we put the Kingpin in a position where he was no longer the biggest fish in the pond?
Where he's started from the bottom, and now he's going to be here. We're going all Drake mode in this bitch.
Exactly. It's putting him at the bottom of the ladder and now saying what happens when Wilson Fisk has to work his way back up to the top again. And it's so fascinating. It's one of my favorite parts of this book.
Right. And I think it's definitely a very underlying aspect, especially when you look at characters who've been around since the freaking 60s or even like the 90s. Take the Tim Drake thing for example. It's like your characters are going to fucking change. Like, I don't care what you say. You read comics long enough, your characters are going to change. Spider-Man is not the same from the look at like what the death of Gwen Stacy did for Spider-Man after, and that was early Bronze Age. Right?
Absolutely.
Look at his change from Silver Age to Bronze. Look at how vast the X-Men changed, and now we see them as, okay, that's my first class. Oh, but longer readers, old people are like, that was my first class. Right? So if you're watching when you're 60, but
characters even change from run to run too. Like every person has a different interpretation of a particular character.
Right, but especially a character like Kingpin, who's been so known for his dominance, has to build his way back up in the food chain. Which, when he was introduced in Spider-Man 50, he was dominant.
Yeah,
he never had to really work for that respect for that dominance. So this is like the first time we're really seeing Kingpin work for something. Like he became mayor because everyone was so sick of Daredevil, right? Or because Matt Murdock stepped down because he couldn't do his job. He was a really bad mayor, and Kingpin ran and off a limb, and he won because he had that support already from the crime fans because he's already powerful enough.
Yeah.
Talk about our previous president. I'm not going to get political, but it seems very similar. I'm not getting political, but I'm just saying. That's I think that, to your point, that's so fascinating. We're finally seeing like growth to Kingpin, and we're doing something with this character who's been around since what, half a decade of Spider-Man issues, or like a decade of Spider-Man issues,
like the whole lifetimes of human beings. This character has been around.
What, when he come in, like 67, 68, 60?
Probably, yeah. He's in the original like Stan Lee run. He's in the John Romita portion of the book. So he's been around since at least the 60s.
I know them. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, to your point, that was great. And then we see Matt Murdock give the gift to Foggy, and he's like, how'd you find this? He's like, I'm about to see you in a minute. But we actually don't see him in a minute. He kind of breaks down, or like, so we realize, so we have the situation with with Daredevil and his client, and it turns out the brother of his client was the one that Daredevil killed.
Yeah.
Accidentally. Which was just like a mic drop because it was like completely out of left field. Right? Rereading it was like, it hits harder because I guess when you're reading a book weekly, think about it. If you're reading a book weekly, you probably have, I don't know how, I can't speak to you guys, but you probably have at least 5 other monthly, but you're reading your weekly comics. You probably have 5 other books you're reading or that your mind is going through at the time. For me, it's usually in the 20s or the 15 or the teens, high teens. I don't think I've had a pull list under 10 since Future State, but yeah, so you're probably not focusing on like the little subtle details when you're reading stuff weekly, which is the beauty of trades and going back and revisiting runs.
Yeah.
Is moments like these pack that punch harder.
Yeah, especially when you know the ramifications and how it will affect these characters down the line.
Right. And we just miss stuff. Just like as readers, like I can tell you what happened in this issue, like if I were to recall it from when I read it. When did this book come out? Like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago? Are we on now?
2.5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
But it still packs that punch, which is a testament to how well Zdarsky writes, and just how great this book is. It makes you think. You know, it hits you and it makes you think, which is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But Kingpin says, he's like, I'm stepping down. We talked about that. And then we see North still kind of recovering, and he's like, yeah, crime's down. I win. I did it. But there are people out there still running around like Daredevil, kind of like give that, which is very subtle for what's yet to come, where we're going to get introduced to Typhoid Mary later, or reintroduce Typhoid Mary, and kind of like every Daredevil villain. That Daredevil, the feeling of Daredevil, like the essence of Daredevil carries on throughout the city. It's almost like a signal. It's almost like holding up a peace sign in Hell's Kitchen, you know, kind of like there's a line, I feel like. Daredevil represents a line.
It kind of feels a little bit like a DC sort of thing, a little bit to me, like that idea of a hero being a symbol, right? A symbol that other people can take on, a mantle that other people can pick up. And again, it really shows how much Daredevil means to the people of Hell's Kitchen, that even when he's gone, people are going to step up and take his place and wear the horns to protect the kitchen.
Right.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We end the issue with Daredevil calling from his office.
Oh, I love that.
Filing like assaults because he can hear everything. So he's like, even though, right, I can't do my job as Daredevil, I can do my job as a citizen. And that's Daredevil still trying to find his role in society without his like extracurricular horniness or his Daredevilness.
That's such a great moment where it pulls out and you just see all the words of all the things that he's hearing throughout the city.
Right.
He's like, I'd like to report a robbery. I'd like to report an assault. I'd like to.
And then you
report
see, yeah, but then you see like, so we didn't bother. We see like, ow, you little whatever, or like, we just see a bunch of words or like a bunch of like little phrases. They
right.
Or like, hey, don't you dare bring that shit in here. Well, it didn't say shit because it's comic book authority, but like, that's what Zdarsky wants you to think, say in your head. Which I thought was extremely powerful. And then we move on to issue 8, which is a gorgeous cover by Chip Zdarsky. He did some of the covers, by the way. Chip Zdarsky can draw. But this is where we go back to Mindy. And this is where she invites him over for dinner.
This is probably my favorite issue in the in this arc. Actually,
yes.
This one's great.
This one's great. We see Kingpin going out with another government official. With the governor, I believe, of New York.
Governor of New York, yes.
Yes. So we kind of see him going up the ladder, and they're shooting birds. And everyone knows who Kingpin is, right? Even no matter how reformed he will be, you know how dangerous he is by reputation. So what was really cool about this is like they're able to have a coherent, casual conversation while the governor's like, yeah, my men are outside. Like they have all arms on you right now. You just can't see me. He's like, well, who do you think's behind your men?
That's such a great final middle finger move where he's like, yeah, I know. I had my men behind your men.
He's like, I'm still.
When you dig into what I think this arc is about, which is the inequities that exist within our justice system, where you have like people like Mattis trying to help who are being put away for these probably like drug offenses and things like that, versus Kingpin who's like, yeah, I'm planning to like invest in marijuana and you need to hurry up and legalize it. It again shows that there's two justice systems, right? For the rich and powerful like Kingpin, he can get away with these kinds of things without any issue, versus the poorer side of society, which gets unfairly hit with the strictest punishments of the law.
Right. I guess that's because like they're more vulnerable, and it's also a lot. They're more vulnerable, and it's very affordable. It's very affordable for them to to do this, you know, or to partake in those events. So Kingpin can get away with it, also because of how powerful he is. We've seen it even in our society, government officials, right, doing grimy stuff, but it gets covered up. Exactly. And then we end up seeing the household. We get introduced to Izzy, and we get to know her backstory. Essentially, she deals with drugs, and her family deals with drugs, but they're never like directly tied to any sales, so they can't get prosecuted, even though they've been trying to get prosecuted for years. It's this whole thing. And then at the end, right, we get to know the whole family. We get to know Dante, who's kind of an important character because he dies in this issue. He gets shot, which a gun goes off, and there's a shooter, and everyone gets shot, and Dante gets killed, basically, which Izzy falls, hurts her hip. Daredevil leaves, and Mindy's like very upset by everything because she's a little daughter, and she didn't want Matt to get involved, and she also brought Matt over just to like scare the living shit out of her husband because like, oh yeah, he's a law enforcement person who can come over at any given time and take you away from our life.
Which that was one of the cool things I'll say about this issue was seeing the different perspectives, and it's really cool. They have Matt sit at the other head of the table directly across from Izzy, and they had kind of their like almost like a theological debate of sorts. Yes, like they're or ideological is a better word. They're ideological debates, and just how different their viewpoints are.
Right.
And going back to what we said a moment ago about the poverty and the inequities in our society, she even is like, you know, talking about how like, no, I as a person who like operates within these criminal elements, like I provide people with an opportunity that society typically doesn't give them. So again, like you're saying, that ideological debate where she's like, no, I'm a good thing for society because I'm trying to help people and lift them up, even if it's through illicit means. And Daredevil's like, no, you're still just a criminal. Like,
right.
You can't do that. But yeah, again, Zdarsky doing a great job with these philosophical debates between characters.
Right, which is something we've been really talking about the whole book. And then the next issue 9, we see that whole debate between, or that whole conversation between Reed and Matt that was very iconic. They're playing chess, so you have like your Magneto moment in Professor X. I thought this was like very much like their moment right there, like right in Central Park. And we're talking about God. And Reed is like, yeah, you messed up. Where is this coming from? So Daredevil kind of gets into it. And because he's like a man of science, obviously he's very swayed by like what's fact, what's fiction, what's like a folk tale, or and like where you would like put your faith, the difference between laws and religion, and when you can cross the line. And Brian, I know you wanted to speak on this, and Bryce, I know you guys, so I'll let you guys have the floor with that.
Yeah, Bryce, do you want to share your thoughts on this first?
With the Reed and Mac kind of discussion?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting to me that Matt went to ask Reed of all people. Like, he had to have known that he was strictly a man of science. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I was kind of questioning the entire time. It's like, okay, why would you go to him if you're looking for confirmation?
Marvel won't let you use Spider-Man anymore.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I know why, but I'm saying like for Daredevil's character, if you want a type of affirmation in your faith, why go to Mr. Fantastic of all people? But at the same time, I think he was kind of looking for that kind of viewpoint because he knew that Reed would be honest with him, and he wouldn't have any sort of bias or preconceived notion about Matt's faith because he doesn't share it.
Right.
Reed Richards is also, I think, a person who, you know, obviously beyond being like a man of science, he's also seen insane stuff. Like stuff that if you were a religious person would be like, oh, this is like a god or the god with a capital G. Like Reed Richards has like fought Galactus, who is basically, you know, God, right? Like he's seen so much, and I think that's the other reason he turns to him in this moment, like asking Reed, like, you're somebody who is the most like analytical scientific person. What is your whole perspective on God? And Matt presents a really interesting argument to him where he says, like, if God exists, maybe that's why he created you, the smartest man in the world, to save people. And that's always, I think, an interesting theological debate, which is like, people often say like, oh, if I just pray for this, God will deliver it to me. And I think sometimes people with strong faith, like, expect like the heavens to open up and light to come down and like an angel to hand you the answer. But
Watson. Oh, I'm sorry.
But what actually kind of happens, and what Matt is saying is like, maybe God isn't going to directly intervene, but God created you, Reed Richards, and you, Reed Richards, have saved this world many times over. So in a way, isn't that God protecting us? I think that's an interesting theological idea, is like, God is not going to directly intervene, but maybe he's going to put things into your life that will give you the opportunities that you're looking for or help you in some way.
Right. And then again, it's like a lot of different avenues that Zdarsky is really doing in this book to really push the plot forward and really get us to know these character situations a lot better.
Right.
Because that's really how he's able to use dialogue, really. And that's in a Daredevil comic book, you have to understand Daredevil can't see, so you have to convey your thoughts and convey his feelings through other avenues. One of that is dialogue, because you can't put yourself in a first person situation with Daredevil, because we won't be able to see shit, right? Or like the art with like where like you can see like what he's hearing. You can
the radar vision.
The radar vision, also like the different voices like coming through the building of like what he's hearing.
Yeah.
That was at the end of 2 issues previously, at this point. So Zdarsky is very methodical of when he wants us to feel something and what he wants us to think about at a given moment, because he's going to pull it later on in the story very subtly. Anyway, continuing with the story, Mindy shows up. She wants to buy him a drink, but we see that she's like kind of broken because like, she doesn't know what to do for her daughter, and she's like, "Yeah, I can't keep doing this. I love him." And we get more history of the bookstore and why that's important to the family, because it's like this is how we can know the public and know who we're dealing with on the outside, so we can better suit people on the inside of the city. So it's like where we have 2 different target audiences at this point, for revenue, for income, also for if we ever need something, I guess, for connections. That's really all about. Cole is continuing to be a dick, but we also have a church scene where Matt is like trying to find his avenue in the world, and he's like, God has shut me down, or like he's given me a test. But the sisters, they're telling him like, yeah, we were in that place too, but God put us on this path. Maybe you can, when one door closes, maybe you just have to find the other one. You know, God is not going to present itself and point you in the direction. It's like a teacher, right? Obviously, I tell kids, Brian, I know you're a teacher, and Bryce, you like to teach me math, but I don't listen to you. But but you know, there's a certain point where with students, we stop holding their hand through life. You know, I feel like God guides you, but he's not going to hold your hand throughout every scenario. Like if he shuts one door, he's allowing you the freedom to find your own path, you know, at a certain level. Obviously, if you're an adult like Matt, right, he's not going to sit and say, Matt, let's go, get your shit together. No, it's Matt, we're shutting this part down, but it's up to you to figure out how to live your life and where else you're meant to be. Which is
very much that Reed Richards. Yeah, and that's like so much of what he says to Reed Richards, right? Like you're not going to get handed all the answers, but you have to be able to have the understanding to say like, this is the opportunity I need to take. And also to be able to say like, I need to not rely on everyone to, like you said, hold my hand and guide me. I need to be able to make decisions for myself, which we see him do when he overhears that nun talking about a kid who's gone missing, and he decides like, I got to jump back into action as Daredevil.
Right. Yeah. You know, they're saying like God is good all the time. To me, God is good when you want it to be, or when you allow it to be, right? Because a lot of times when we say, oh, like, whenever something good happens, like, oh, thank God, da da da. No, but you did it for yourself at the end of the day too, right? Maybe God opened the door for you to do it, right? Or maybe God put you on that path. Or
that's where the conversation, that's where the whole free will conversation comes into play, which is an entirely different discussion that could take hours and hours and hours on end.
Yeah, we're already an hour and a half in plus, but we continue with the story. We continue with the story. Not much is really going on. We just see Daredevil kind of listening to see where this kid is. And we see North trying to really navigate what he's doing. And he's dealing with stuff at the precinct with dirty cops that were previously working for Kingpin, have like kind of revealed themselves. So he's kind of dealing with that aspect of kind of the corrupt police officer. Daredevil is on his own path trying to figure out what to do at that point. So he puts his mask on, like kind of like a do-rag that covers his eyes, only way I can put it.
Yeah.
And he saves the kid, but he puts like a lot of trauma on himself, which he's still not 100%. And he really hasn't been 100%, even up to the current issues. So we see that, and then he ends up going back to Mindy. He ends up going back to Mindy, and that's when Daredevil and Mindy go at it.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
And then we go to the last issue. Well, if they go at it, they have sex. They like we said, Daredevil's a little horny.
Just a little bit.
Brian, we can't see your face. But
yeah, something happened with my camera. You're good. Keep talking.
So the last issue is the Jorge Fornes issue where he's drawing, and this is kind of where we see the repercussions of what's going on. Where Cole is going to visit his partner in the hospital. We figure out that he has passed, and Mindy is very upset, and her husband, I believe, got arrested. Correct, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe that is what happens at the very end. Well, I mean, really, she's shaken up from the whole. Yeah, she got shaken up from the whole thing with the family getting attacked and basically feeling regretful for dragging Matt into this entire thing. You know, she's clearly like upset. I don't think her husband has actually gotten arrested yet, but I do think he's kind of like on a war path now to get payback on the Owl and his men, which I think is the thing that's really like shaken her up, that she put Matt in danger and then riled him up. Then they hook up.
Right. And then starting the next issue, it's war. So there's going to be a gang war, which is furthering everything else. And we see kind of like the two plots between Matt and North kind of colliding, because North kind of realizes that like Daredevil is more than just a symbol. He's a person. When Daredevil comes to his aid in the precinct, when the cops try to get rid of North physically, take him out like his partner. And Daredevil shows up, and then Daredevil obviously is there, and they're both kicking ass together. Yeah. And that's where Daredevil says, you know, for a man who puts himself out there as some untouchable person, you're going to end up getting hurt more, which North was really thinking about. He's like, which was great. And then North was like, it's you. He's like, it's you, isn't it? And then,
I mean, that's.
And then Daredevil leaves, right? But he's obviously in a lot of pain. He's in turmoil because people are dying like everywhere he goes. And then we see Elektra showing up. Like, okay, you're taking on the police. You can't fight. Come on, what's going on with you?
You need my help.
She's like, I'm back, bitches.
It was really cool, especially after the earlier issues, seeing Matt come to the aid of North and seeing them fight together for the first time. This isn't the last time that we see them fight side by side, but it's definitely the first and probably the most important time.
Yeah, because I think I think he's always known that there are dirty cops, but I think he's realizing just how outnumbered he is in Hell's Kitchen specifically. Like, I don't think he really realized just how much the city is corrupted and how much people are not going to have his back, whether it's going after Daredevil or going after Kingpin or the Owl or whoever it might be. He's really up against the wall, and Daredevil's really the best ally he could ask for in the scenario. I really like the art in this issue. You know, it definitely, you said earlier, like it has, elements of David Aja. It also reminds me of David Mazzucchelli, the artist of Batman.
Yes.
really, so it gives me like a lot of like Frank Miller kind of vibes, this issue in particular, and Mazzucchelli vibes, which, you know, obviously that's perfect for Daredevil. Like, it's that gritty aesthetic that works so well for the character.
Yeah.
That's been so iconic for him.
Right. I'm not the biggest Jorge Fornes fan out there. I've said that earlier. I definitely see why his style relates to other people. It's just, I don't feel like it's, I don't know. I feel like it's a different art style. Like, it's a different tone. It sets a completely different tone for the book. I think there are some scenes, like when he's doing a 9-panel grid, I think that's perfect for his style because he doesn't need a lot of space to capture. But I feel like when he's doing more dynamic pieces, I think that's where he lacks a lot because it just doesn't have the voice for it, you know? Because it's so soft, I feel like I feel like his artwork would be very good in an anthology story with like those red, white, and black, whatever, or like red, white, and blue, whatever kind of anthology story they want to throw at us. Red, white, and blood, whatever shade of red they decide to choose at any given moment. All right. I mean, Halo runs one of them super red, but I think his artwork is very suiting for that. And it definitely sets the book up for what's yet to come, ending another arc, a very essential arc, and setting up kind of a broken Daredevil, which is where a lot of people fell off the book next, but I thought it was great. Despite my feelings
got better.
Right, it gets better, and I thought going forward, you see Matt Murdock take up the Tom Brady look coming out of the Super Bowl. That one image, I've sent you the meme, Bryce. Brian, I'll send it to you. But overall, if this is your first Daredevil story, I think it's very welcoming to new readers. You don't really need to know everything because it explains everything.
And it does a good job of hitting on the important characters of the Daredevil canon without it feeling like here's just a greatest hits of Daredevil. You know, like I have mixed feelings on Batman Hush, but I think my biggest critique of it is like it just throws every villain at you every issue. And what I like about this is like, yeah, you're going to get Elektra, you're going to get Kingpin, you're eventually going to get Bullseye, Typhoid Mary, but they're given space to breathe and feel like important parts of the plot rather than just being tossed at you one after the other, which I think is awesome. A credit to Zdarsky's pacing of this book.
Right, and even talking about the crime families, which is very time and time again, we're relating it to a Gotham story. The one thing that Batman Eternal did very well, I know I'm like obsessed with that book, is it built up the crime families. I don't know, I just made like a TikTok where it's like, hey, I recommend this book, and everyone's like, no, Hush. I'm like literally Hush, and like Hush. I'm like, no, but
I said Long Halloween. Yeah,
but I agree with you though. With Daredevil, you want that crime family aspect too, and I think the Libris family is a really interesting dynamic to bring in, where it's cool because it's not affecting Daredevil; it's affecting Matt Murdock. Yeah. So you get a kind of flip on the script of instead of it being Daredevil trying to take these people down, it's Matt Murdock's personal life being affected by them.
Right, and it's Matt Murdock's. It's really every aspect of his life. You know, that's being questioned: his religion, his faith, his turmoil, even like his life as Daredevil, right? Every aspect of Matt Murdock kind of got touched on. Not kind of, it did. It got touched on in a way where it's like, wow, this is like bringing in new ideas, also retconning older themes for a lot of long-term fans, but for newer people, it's also very welcoming. The art is fantastic. I think Zdarsky has thoughtfully picked out the artists on this book for given arcs. Like, when you're setting the tone for an arc, you want to pick out artists when you know that, okay, Checchetto can't draw every issue. He's our main guy. But in the meantime, I want to achieve this story arc, Jorge Fornes, or Lalit Kumar Sharma in this aspect. Or later, we're going to see Mike Hawthorne, who gets the job done. Going forward, you know, I think this is a very great story. I mean, how it got nominated for an Eisner. Daredevil stories have always been great. I don't want to say every one is great, but they're always like essential, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, I would say pound for pound, Daredevil is the character with the most like consistently great runs. Like it's practically back to back. It's crazy, and I think that's because, like we were saying before, like Marvel will be like, yeah, you can do whatever you want to Daredevil, and because they allow that, it gives writers more freedom to do interesting, groundbreaking stuff with the character that you don't always get with the top tier A-list names.
Right. And like, what do you have to go through to get Spider-Man in? But anyway, You guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this review. I hope you guys enjoyed Daredevil. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want us to review anything else, do you like this team or want us to do something again, comic books down below. I know we are going to be doing Black Widow, but real quick, where can we find you guys on social media? Everything will be in the description below, by the way. But Brian, where can we find you, man? What are you up to?
Really, just the main place to check me out is on TikTok, which is my TikTok name is Captain Comic Rex, RECS. Like recommendations. You can check me out there. If you enjoyed me blathering on today about comic books, that's the perfect place to check me out.
There you go. And your TikToks are phenomenal. That's how we met, is when I started diving into TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to speak to less, like I love talking to key collectors, but I don't want to talk to speculators. I don't want to talk to that. I just want to talk to people who read, right? Because I feel like, oh, if you can't tell me what happens to this issue, but you have like 5, 9, 8, I have an issue. But I'm like, I don't want to read. I don't want to read and talk about the damn books. Brian, and TikTok's been perfect for that because there's like so many great people who just are there for the hobby of reading and the sole purpose of reading, which is so rewarding. So, Brian, thank you, man, for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I hope we see more of you.
It's been
I would love that.
And Bryce, what are you up to, bro?
Nothing much, man. I'm on here on ComixKings for a weekly wrap up used to be every Friday night, but now we're going to try it out on Sunday evenings going forward. And so still going strong with that. Been loving it. And you can also find me on Instagram at Hillbilly Comics. Just kind of, posting stuff from my collection, doing, trade hauls, book hauls, talking about what I've been reading, talking about what I've been buying. Just real chill. And it's just me over there. So if you want 100% me, Instagram at Hillbilly Comics.
All 5'11" of him too, by the way.
6'1", thank you.
Whoops. My bad.
That's a great name. Hillbilly Comics.
That's exactly what it's called.
I'm from West Virginia, and
nice.
We call ourselves hillbillies with pride. So
I love it.
ComixKings is just dope. But anyway, you guys,
it's good too.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoy this. Like I said, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for checking out this video. News from the channel. We got a little bit of Creators Corner coming up. We got Ron V coming up real soon, and then we have, which I haven't talked about.
Nice.
And then John Romita will be back, followed by other shit I can't talk about yet. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time.